Hi, my name is Lee, and my husband and I run the Briarpatch Farm and Nursery out in South Berwick. We bought the property in 1979, sort of started the business in 1980, and it's kind of big now compared to what it was way back then. So if you've never been there, please stop by and see us, because the presence on the road is quite small, but there's a lot in the back. So tonight I just brought a few things, some new plants that we have and some things that maybe will add some interest to your garden. So the first one is black snake root, or bugbane is the common name for this, but it's called Actea. The Latin name is Actea, and this one is chocoholic. So, which appeals to me and most of the rest of you maybe if you like chocolate. So it has beautiful bronzy purple foliage. It's fragrant, very fragrant. And the thing that I really like about it is that it blooms late. So it blooms in August, September. Bees and butterflies like it. And I think hummingbirds probably as well. The only thing I will say is that it often recommends that you put it in shade, but I find that here in Nova Scotia our summer isn't quite long enough, so it needs more sun than what you might think. The next one is a type of butterfly weed, a new one called blonde bombshell. Also a great plant for attracting both bees and butterflies, and it is a native plant. I mean, this is a cultivar that was discovered, but it is something that grows naturally here, although the native one is orangey in color. It's very drought tolerant, likes well-drained soil, and is easy to grow. Blooms July to September, basically. The next one is a new salvia called bumbleberry. Now, there are tons of salvia out there, and I like them all, really, but this is a new one that's a bit more compact, beautiful fuchsia pink flowers with sort of a dark thing at the back there. Again, it's like a bee magnet, and butterflies like it as well. And the other good thing about it, in addition to being fairly long blooming for a perennial, if you deadhead, you often get more blooms coming up on the side. So this is a very new plant. It's a dwarf smoke bush with beautiful purple foliage and those fuzzy, smoky blooms that look sort of like smoke. The normal smoke bush is a really vigorous grower and a big plant, so I'm thinking that this is going to appeal to people who have a small yard or a small garden but want that intense color. This is another perennial that I just sort of discovered last year visiting a garden in Maine. It's a type of perennial geranium, would be a great ground cover, and it blooms, it usually starts in June and will bloom right till frost, which is very unusual for a perennial. It's sort of mounding in habit, so it's going to be like that, kind of sprawly, but then it'll die right back down for the winter and come back. So if you're trying to cover a hot, sunny area that's kind of dry, this is your plant. There are millions of new hydrangeas, both mock type, this type, the PG type with the sort of cone-shaped blooms. Anyway, this particular one, a lot of our staff really liked, so I included it here. It starts off white, like most of them do, turns pink, but then it turns a sort of a darker, rosier color later on in the fall. Now, it's a fairly big shrub, maybe 6 feet, but there is also a smaller, little quickfire. So if you don't have room for the big one, it comes in a smaller version as well. And it'll give you color, again, late in the summer when you don't have a whole lot. From August on, this is going to have color for you. And this is a lilac that's been out for a few years, but it's not all that common. It's called bloomerang because it reblooms. So it will bloom in the spring and then bloom again mid to late summer. Now, initially, I wasn't sure how tough it was going to be, because often if things rebloom, that takes some of the goodness out of them. But it seems to be reliably hardy. It's not as big as what a normal lilac is, and I don't think it suckers like regular lilacs do either. So, all good qualities as far as I'm concerned. This is a very new clematis, but it's not the one that you're all familiar with that, you know, twines up a trellis. This is sort of a bush type. So it's shorter, almost like a small or a big perennium. You could plant it so that it would actually twine through other plants, which would give you a really interesting look. And it has that unbelievable blue color that people are always looking for in plants. So for that reason, it should be popular. This is not a new plant, but it's a plant that's become very popular here in the valley. It's a flowering dogwood called Satomi, Cornus cusa, which means it's a Chinese dogwood. It has pink blooms, and it blooms longer than any tree that I can think of. Usually a month, literally, the blooms stay on it. Then it has fruit, funny looking, almost like strawberry fruit that comes afterwards. You can eat them, but they're not. Kind of an odd consistency, but the birds like them. And then it has beautiful fall color. So it's a tree that really gives you interest for a very long period of time. And that's just a sort of a close-up of what the bloom looks like. And this tree, the fringe tree, is native to the eastern United States, but not up quite as far north as we are. But I think it's zone, I wrote down zone 4, so that's colder even than we are. So, and I have one planted, and we've sold quite a few. I just think it's really interesting. The bloom is really sort of ethereal looking. And then in the fall, then it has seed heads, I believe, and then in the fall it has yellow foliage. So again, it's something that gives you interest over a longer period of time. And that's it, just a few new things for you. Anybody have any questions? I'm happy to answer them, or I'd be happy to answer them, you know, afterwards down at the back.